stories of the week. Well, one has dominated much of the coverage, and that is Extinction Rebellion. Extinction Rebellion is an elite front which the overwhelming majority of people that support it have no idea about. They've been sold the shocking lie that we're all going to die and we have 12 years to save the planet. In fact, it's less than that now, apparently, because of climate change caused by human activity. It is the most blatant, provable lie. And yet, so many people have bought it. And I understand why, and particularly among the young, because that's all they've ever heard. Young generations today went to school, and from the moment they did, they've been bombarded with this "we're all going to die" climate change insanity via the elite-owned education system around the world, and so they believe it, and so we have the Greta Thunbergs and so many in the young generation pushing this and berating the older generations for putting their lives in danger when they're not. It's a phenomenal example of how mind control, perception control works. You keep bombarding out the same message over and over again, year after year, decade after decade, and unless people are in control of their own minds to the point where they'll say, hold on, I'm going to see if this stands up to scrutiny, then they become pawns in a game they don't even begin to understand. And I've been listening this week to supporters of this Extinction Rebellion, which is funded by all the usual suspects, by the way. You know, all the people that are benefiting from the system to the tune of millions apiece are now overseeing and funding an organization that wants to bring the system down. But of course, it won't bring the 1% down because the 1% are behind it. And I've been listening to Extinction Rebellion supporters and some people who are involved directly in the organization, and it has been embarrassing, frankly. You hear them parroting this list of why we're all going to die, and interviewers who are not buying it, which is a very few of them, by the way. Most people in the mainstream media wouldn't dare go against it, not least in the BBC, etc. But those who are questioning and saying, well, hold on a minute, let's just look at what you've said and what you've claimed, and let's compare it with the facts. And when that's done, these people have been speechless, sometimes literally speechless, and other times speechless in another way, which you'll notice a lot when people are being questioned on something they know nothing about and repeating things they have no background knowledge about. And that is that when they're in trouble, they change the subject. And I watched one interview this week, or listened to it actually, and every time the interviewer nailed this person on the unsubstantiated nature of the facts they were claiming to justify closing streets of London and disrupting people's lives, which they plan to do for 2 weeks, and of course around the world as well. This person, every time they were nailed, which was like every minute or so, they changed the subject and wanted to go off into another area. And of course, when they were brought back, no, answer the question. Well, they were completely lost, and then often literally speechless, because it's all a scam. And here we have hundreds arrested from London to Sydney as Extinction Rebellion tries to block roads and bridges in concerted action. And they call it a global day of civil disobedience, which, at least in London, they are wanting to continue for the 2 weeks. A global day of civil disobedience. Well, like everything in this crazy world, that's a complete inversion, because it's a global day of civil obedience. Because what these people are doing, most in complete naivety and innocence, and those at the core in complete awareness, is they are serving the system they claim to want to bring down. Because when the system is transformed as they want, life as we know it on planet Earth will be completely transformed. All the benefits of human society that have been built up over the years would be gone to meet these zero carbon emission targets, which I'll come to in a second. And yet, the few who are behind this will have even more power and even more control than they had before, because, of course, the whole point of what Extinction Rebellion is demanding, and what the Green New Deal of Ocasio-Cortez in the United States is demanding, is a complete and utter centralized dictatorship dictating every facet of human life. And that is what this is really all about. So we've had these people being arrested and using it as like a war medal. Oh, I've been arrested. Look how good I am. And all they're doing is serving the interests of the very people they claim to be opposing. It is beyond a head shaker to observe day after day. One of the things that this Extinction Rebellion did in Britain this week was to spray 1,800 litres of fake blood on the Treasury building in Westminster. Now, of course, that was going to serve the environment enormously, wasn't it? Pouring fake blood all over the place, and you know what happened was that they drove this fire engine, this old fire engine, diesel fire engine. By the way, diesel, this climate change cult was urging people, and the governments did it as well, urging people to use diesel cars and diesel vehicles because it was better for global warming. And then they found out that all these particulates were coming out the exhaust pipes of diesel vehicles, which are incredibly bad for health. And so they, also it was claimed anyway. And so now, and for some time, they've been trying to suppress diesel vehicles. Just as the same crowd have been telling us decade after decade now that we have 10 years to save the planet. And of course, the United Nations said that in 1989. Well, 1999, 2019. Oh, I think we passed that one. And then there was Al Gore. Was it 2006? He said we got 10 years. It's 2016, 2019. Oh, I think we've passed that one. And so now we have another one. It's just ridiculous. It's insane. And so we have this situation with diesel vehicles. Now they're the bad guy when they were the good guy before to the same people. So they turn up in this fire engine. diesel fire engine, and they then lose control of the hose and hose fake blood in all over the place where they didn't want it to go or didn't intend it to go. And it was a complete farce. But that's no surprise, because Extinction Rebellion is a complete farce, and it would be laughable if it wasn't so sinister. And here we have a headline from DavidIcke.com this week. Elite support for Extinction Rebellion. Demand for Marxist world to fight climate change. And as I've added, but of course, it's the whole point. Justifying Marxist tyranny, centralized control of everything, to save the world. It's extraordinary. Of course, like I say, the usual suspects are all behind it, like George Soros and his Open Society Foundations. On and on the list goes of these billionaire elite funding something that would appear to be challenging the billionaire elite. Have those who support Extinction Rebellion stopped for even a second to ask themselves why that contradictory situation is before us? Oh no, because we're all gonna die. Another interesting aspect to all this, getting back to sanity, is that I posted a couple of interviews on DavidIcke.com this week from or with Princeton professors, one of whom kind of specializes in carbon dioxide, and another one who kind of has been involved with that subject over the years. He's quite an elderly man, so he's had a lot of experience in these things. And both of them were saying that actually more carbon dioxide is not bad, it's good. And how many people know that the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is vastly less than it has been before? And that which we do have, the great majority of it is naturally occurring, because without carbon dioxide, we would really all be dead, because it's what gives life to vegetation. Vegetation, by the way, which takes in carbon dioxide and emits oxygen. And as a result of increased carbon dioxide, the planet is getting greener. But of course it is. It's a cause and effect. That's why when you had far higher carbon dioxide levels, the planet was a lush ball of vegetation and trees. And this one Princeton professor is saying, well, I'll tell you what, the first one's saying that I posted this week, it's not that we have too much carbon dioxide, it's that we don't have enough. Vegetation is actually, and trees, etc., are in carbon deficit because it's not high enough for the optimum level. From what I have recalled from reading this week, I've read a lot on this subject again this week. Goodness knows how many books on it I've read now. They're talking about a figure around 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The optimum, and what it has been and higher, these experts say, is 1,200 parts per million in the atmosphere. That's the optimum for trees, vegetation, plants, etc. Why? Because that has been how it has been for great periods of this planet's history, and thus the vegetation has locked in to that level of carbon dioxide absorption. So it's operating on a deficit at the moment. And this is something, of course, that is never talked about in the mainstream, because it's been decided, been decreed, that carbon dioxide is bad and indeed is a pollutant, when it's the gas of life, and without it, there would be no life. And without what is called the greenhouse effect, it's a very simplistic way of describing it, but without the greenhouse effect, we'd also all be dead, because the temperature would be so cold it would be uninhabitable. And why is it, by the way, he said, answering his own question, that in greenhouses where they are growing plants and they want them to grow to maximum effect and maximum speed, that the level of carbon dioxide that they artificially put into the greenhouse is 1,200 parts per million. For the very reason that these carbon dioxide experts are saying, we don't have enough carbon dioxide, not too much. It should be 1,200 parts per million for optimum growth of trees and vegetation. And they keep telling us that trees take out carbon dioxide. It's a self-balancing system. And what these extraordinarily ridiculous and at the core extraordinarily mendacious and psychopathic people want to do is intervene in that process. And whenever humans intervene in natural processes, they tend to completely mess it up. But if you have an agenda for humanity that involves complete 24/7 control, and here's the point, at least one of them involved in this, you want to reduce the population dramatically, then do you want more than adequate food to be available to that target population, or do you want not nearly enough? Because one thing that's not been discussed, certainly in the mainstream, I say one thing, it's a long list of things, it's just one of them, is that the more you remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, the more stress you put on vegetation of all kinds in terms of its ability to grow and flourish, including the trees that climate people say we must have more trees. Oh, they're burning the trees down in the rainforest. And you're reducing the number of trees and vegetation. Healthy trees, healthy vegetation, flourishing trees, flourishing vegetation every time you reduce carbon dioxide. It's a shocker. If you haven't seen the interviews with the Princeton professors, well, it's worth it if you get the time. just to have that information at hand. You'll get it if you go into the search engine at davidicke.com and put in carbon dioxide is making the world greener. Princeton professor, quote, "It would be crazy to try to reduce it." But there's another one as well, an earlier one, which in which this guy has spent a long time dealing with carbon dioxide and says exactly the same. Now, if you want confirmation that this whole green movement is a scam, then look no further than the British Green Party for reasons I'm going to come to. And I was once a national spokesman for the British Green Party in the 1980s for a short time, thankfully a short time. And I met many people in the rank and file of the party who were very genuine, as the vast majority of people supporting this Extinction Rebellion are very genuine. They're just utterly misguided because they bought a lie and believed it. So why did I join the Green Party in the first place? Because I care about the environment, and I cared about the environment and what humans were doing to it. Cared about pollution and destruction of the natural world. And I cared about exploiting the environment to cover it with concrete for no other reason than to make money, not for human benefit of developers, that's all. And then, when I got into the Green Party, I realized that actually it was nothing like, in its motivation, and I'm talking about the hierarchy here, what it appeared to be. It was just another political party operating in the same way that other political parties work. And the backstabbing in the Green Party at that time, I tell you, was extraordinary. You didn't only have to watch your back, you had to watch your front. The Green MP in Britain, called Caroline Lucas, was actually worked in the office, the Green Party national office at the time. So I remember her. And what has happened, and I'm really, really glad that my life took me for that brief period into the Green Party, because given current events, it gave me a real insight into the mentality of many of these people and the motivations of many of these people. And what has happened is the elite agenda of creating a Marxist world tyranny via the excuse of we must save the planet has completely and utterly taken over the UK Green Party and Green parties around the world. Completely taken over. And it's become just another political party where politics is more important than genuineness and integrity, and any lie will do. And it's also become a vehicle for this elite tyranny to create a Marxist, less than 1% controlled world. And here's a wonderful example of that from this very week, and from a Green Party member, because the Green Party has been having its annual autumn conference in Wales. And I'm talking about the UK Green Party here, but what I'm describing is actually the hijacked environmental movement as it's become worldwide. This is a description by a Green Party member called Tanya, who went to this Green Party conference as a member, paid to attend. And what she wanted to do was press the party hierarchy to have a debate, just a debate, about 5G and its effects. And what happened is that the hierarchy of the Green Party did not want to know about any debate into 5G, and it doesn't oppose 5G, even though this is going to be devastating to the environment, because all life, the basis of all life is electromagnetic information fields in this reality. And 5G is going to devastate those electromagnetic information fields, as 4G, 3G and Wi-Fi already have for many people. And it's going to be a nightmare for the natural world. All these bees are disappearing, of course. And you read the stories of accounts from workers who work and repair and etc. these Wi-Fi masts and phone masts, but all the bees they find dead around them. So anyway, this is the account from this Green Party member, and this is just classic for the environmental movement worldwide. She says, Friday, 4th of October, World Animal Day. People from across the country came to make a stand outside Green Party Autumn Conference regarding their deafening silence on electromagnetic radiation pollution and 5G. Green Party members and non-members from Berwick, Lampeter, Stroud, Bristol, Reading and the Isle of Wight came to speak truth to power, something which the Green Party traditionally prides itself upon, but which it is sadly not applying in this area or any other, by the way. The protest was a success in that we got to speak to many people, including several key people within the party. Many leaflets were handed out, and I went inside during the plenary to ask for our motion, which was well supported and well researched, to be reinstated, which was the motion about 5G. Sadly, it was ruled out of order again due to procedural rules, which are obviously, she says, being used to thwart any discussion on the subject. I then raised my voice from the inside, pointing out that the Green Party are missing the boat on this and how ecology has all but been eradicated from its agenda, making them lose valuable members. That whole ecology, all those connections, that is the natural world. It's all about connections. That's what, among other things, attracted me to the Green Party. Gone. We're all gonna die. You must give us your power or you're all gonna die. That's it. They don't need a manifesto. They just need a single sheet of paper with that on. She goes on, there were still many people in the hall, or there were many people in the hall, and some later came out to support her. Still, the party elite are not listening, and there are too many members who chose to remain ignorant in favour of a one-eyed climate agenda. The full force of the leadership's anger was made clear when the conference organiser was sent out to tell us that we were not allowed to stand outside the venue to protest, as I had, quote, disrupted conference. I had done no such thing. I had merely spoken out against a corrupt and unjust handling of two motions, first claiming we didn't have an underpinning policy, then claiming we didn't ask for action, putting us in a catch-22 situation where the only avenue left for us was to protest. So, not only will they not accept a debate in this Green Party on the natural world devastating 5G, and of course humans who are part of that natural world, but they wanted to stop them even protesting outside. This is the so-called party of protest, the Green Party. And you know, this is classic in this sense. People say that if you give us power, we'll change things. You won't. You know why? Because the vast majority of people, when given power over, then act in exactly the ways that all the other people they protest against act when they get power over. They become a tyranny and they can't see it. Oh yeah, but that other tyranny was a bad tyranny. We're a good tyranny. We're doing it to save the world. So you put women in power who are seeking power over that mentality, which you find in men, you find in women, you find in transgender people, you find in gay people, you find in black people, you find in Hindu people, all of them, Jewish people, Muslim people, all of them have elements within them who will abuse power when they get it. And the people who abuse power seem to be overwhelmingly the ones that want it. There are exceptions, but depressingly few. And so what you have is the same mentality in a different body, different color, different sexuality, acting in the same way as the ones they replaced once they get into power. Because it's not about the body, it's about the mind. That's operating through the body. And all this identity politics has obscured that basic, simple fact. So, here we have a Green Party hierarchy. Green Party telling these protesters, including their own members, some of them, that they can't protest outside the Green Party for their complete lack of interest in 5G. And this party member, Tanya, goes on to talk about what happened the next day as well, when she was approached by by security when she was protesting outside, and was told that if she didn't leave, this is the party hierarchy talking through the security guard, if she didn't leave, and she was basically protesting alone at this time, then they'd call the police. And she describes how when one of the Green Party co-leaders called Jonathan Bartley, I mean, this man, if they could bottle arrogance, he could start a factory, basically. Classic know-it-all, know-nothing politician, operates in the same way. And by the way, I watched a speech of his, not all of it, thankfully, I'm not masochistic, at the Green Party conference, and he's standing there, and he's got the two teleprompter screens next to him, just like Jeremy Corbyn has now in the Labour Party. I mean, if you know your subject and you are up on your subject, then you are able to talk about it, not just without teleprompter screens, but without even a script. Because someone else is not writing it for you. It's coming from the heart. It's coming from what you know. Not some carefully scripted stuff with ridiculous one-liners in you hope will get a soundbite on the television news. So there he is, like all the other anti-system people, using these teleprompters to read his speech. And of course, when you are looking at this teleprompter screen on the right, and then you move across to the teleprompter screen on the left, what you're not doing is looking straight ahead and making eye contact and energetic contact with the audience. Because you're basically just reading it. So the Green Party does teleprompter screens now. Oh dear. Talk about joining the club. Anyway, this Tanya, the Green Party member, describes how Jonathan Bartley, I'll quote her. In the meantime, co-leader Jonathan Bartley swished by, where she was protesting outside, having been interviewed by Channel 4. He did not stop to talk to me, although he and I have talked in the past and he knows my cause. I called out to him that I was banned from standing outside and wondering why, to which he flippantly remarked, "I don't know, health and safety." I retorted that I thought we lived in a democracy. Well, God, thought is all it is now. I then asked the guard to fetch someone from party leadership to come out and tell me eye to eye why I am not allowed to stand outside the premises and make my voice heard. The guard, who I could sense was on my side, went in and after a little while came back. Nobody was with him. Of course, they haven't got the guts to do it face to face. But he said that he had talked to security, and if we did not cause disruption or violence, we would be allowed to stay. This is the hierarchy of the environmental movement that is seeking to turn, ultimately, although most of it doesn't have a clue this is what it's actually doing, but the inner core does, turning human society into Stalinist Russia and communist China. Which is why, of course, the same people never attack China, which is the blueprint for the world, if the truth be told. Which is why it is even further, much further along the road, even than the West, in surveillance and control systems, which the West is planning to introduce.